And I was watching a episode of the Think Media podcast, and I think this is fairly recent, where you had a guest that she actually said this about teaching.
What's funny is that when I was little, I wanted to be a teacher. Later on, I grew up. Eventually, that thought went away. So the fact that I'm teaching now agents, it kind of brings me back, and it's like a full circle moment where I'm like, you know what, I'm actually doing what I wanted 2 years ago when I didn't even think of it.
And for some reason or another, I was just a tad bit triggered, just a little bit. It's not that she was vindictive or malicious about what she said in terms of her experience about how when she was younger, she wanted to teach, and as she got older, it just kind of went away. That's completely understandable, but it was her transition of when she finally got to actually be on YouTube and she actually got to do her real estate content. Now she was in a position to teach, but it really just got me to thinking, like, man, is that real teaching? Teaching on YouTube or just teaching on video, period, is a very passive way. I don't want to call it not real teaching, but it's a very passive way of teaching, and it's a very passive way for the listener to actually learn. Here's the key difference between actually teaching, and I'm just going to generalize it, just teaching online versus actually teaching in person, or learning online, more so learning in person. Let's go back to the 2020 demic that we actually just went through. And we know that a lot of our kids, they have gaps. They have these huge gaps now because we went in an online state. And let me back it up even more, because before that even happened, before C19 even was a thing, I used to be a firm advocate for, learning by the computer and learning online, like watching videos. This is the wave of the future. This is how things are going to be. And, that was me all talking and excited about that. Then C19 happened and we went through the whole thing with Zoom learning and being remote. And then I just saw just how bad kids weren't really able to handle it. They took advantage of it, found loopholes, found ways not to get onto the computers and do their work and participate. It was terrible. It was terrible. So you can kind of say I'm a reformed technologist in that regard. And we weren't just ready for that. Now, I had made a video recently in terms of my 7 predictions why I think we're going to go permanently back to remote learning. Whether we're ready for it or not, there's going to be some circumstances that I believe, and I could be wrong, but that I believe is going to push us back to a remote learning environment. But we'll see what the future holds. By far, I'm definitely not God, but I connect some dots, and I just wanted to make those predictions. But getting back to the main topic at hand, the thing that made remote learning so cumbersome is the fact that it was the element of the physicality of the teacher was missing. And let me explain what I actually mean by that, because and maybe I can only speak from my experience and the type of students that I've taught over the years, which has been mostly Title I, low socioeconomic. I haven't really been in a higher income, how should I say, school district where the kids come from parents and families that are more well off. But for the most part, I know that the types of kids that I've taught over the years, they will try to find ways to get actually out of the learning environment. The teacher is there as a proxy for the kids to kind of have some sort of sense of security, that they can go to somebody when they have questions. And kids, from what I've learned, they actually need the physical. I'm going to have to use this, and I don't mean this in a romantic way or whatnot, but they have to, the intimacy part is in the terms of the relationship and the connection that the students build. They actually need the physical presence of a person that knows what they're talking about. And the biggest thing with the remote learning side aspect is that kids didn't have any skin in the game. They did not have any. It's a thing about accountability. The reason I say that online learning is very passive, because you sit there, you're talking. Even right now, as I'm doing this YouTube video, you're listening to me, I'm talking. It's a very passive way. Once this video is done, you're going to move on about your day. If you don't do anything with this information, or you don't internalize it, and maybe, have some, and when I say internalize it, you're conversing with yourself in terms of the things that I said. Maybe something triggered you or whatnot to where you want to leave a comment, but that's the extent of it. It's still, even leaving comments, that's about as active as you're going to get, unless we actually, continue this conversation outside of this video, and we go and meet up, and then we continue on and build a connection that way. But it's very passive in that sense. And also the feedback loop, the feedback loop, you're not going to get that with online learning. And for the main thing I actually just saw, like, especially if you're learning on YouTube, the people that's actually talking here right now, you're not going to get in contact with them. Even let's just go back to talking about comment section. It may be a day or so or ever if I ever respond back to many of the comments that are left. Now I have the YouTube app that allows me to see what comments were left immediately, but still a lot of the times I don't have the opportunity or the time spent or mental bandwidth to just sit up here and respond to very long comments. Even though they're insightful, there was a recent comment that was left that was very insightful in one of my videos, but I think I still have yet to respond to it. So the feedback loop can stagnate in terms of pouring back into the viewers that are actually watching. Now, in classroom, in person, and the way that I'm actually teaching right now is backwards. And I made a video about that when I talked about, letting your old ideals go. But at the end of that video, I talked about working backwards, giving the kids the assignment first, kind of telling them good luck and just facilitating, walking around, seeing how they're doing. And the kids that got questions, they'll raise their hands. I'll be able to go over there and work with them one-on-one. The kids who work fast and don't need, they can work independently, don't really need your assistance. To me, it's the ultimate form of scaffolding and differentiation. It really is. Right now, the way that I'm teaching is that, especially from technology, I'm teaching kids the basics of using Google Docs. And I have to break it down. I have to tell them, if I want to teach them how to just simply add an image, I have to sit up here and go, okay, what you're going to do first is you're going to hover over the word file. All right. Has everybody hovered over the word file? Let me walk around and see if you've hovered over the word file on Google Docs to make the drop down box come down. And then I will walk around the room and make sure everybody's good. All right. They come back, go to the next step. So I'm taking a very simple thing that we wouldn't even think twice about doing if you're an adult, but I have to break it down for younger students and everything, because when it comes to productivity technology, they don't know what they're doing. And as adults, we made the mistake of thinking that kids are tech savvy because they're social media savvy. And we shouldn't even, that's confusing. We shouldn't confuse social media savvy for a tech savviness. My 3-year-old is able to get on to find a YouTube app and go to the video and understand ads and everything else. That doesn't necessarily mean he's tech savvy. He's just a tech consumer. So let's not get tech consumption savviness with productivity savviness. So I want to make that clear distinction, because I've been doing this for about 5 to 6 years now, and I see it time and time again. So if you're watching this video, going forward, just because a kid knows how to use his or her phone, wherever the case may be, that is not tech savviness. All right, let's get that through our heads. They have to be able to produce something. The kids have to have a feedback loop that is very immediate, and they're not going to get that through the passivity of learning through video. Now, let me share a very weird thing that's happening in education right now that I've actually done this week, and that's me pre-recording a video here at home, or sometime when I have some free time at work, and then taking that video and bringing it to class, and we're watching that video of me actually teaching together, and I'll just pause it and I'll facilitate that way. It's the weirdest thing, because the whole I do, we do, you do model is good, but it's kind of like I had to actually flip it. And because kids are consuming a lot of video content with TikTok and YouTube, I'm guessing this is something that if I need them to get to hear me lecture, instead of me sitting up there actually talking and administrators coming in being mad because I'm the one doing the talking, I'm sitting up here facilitating, I'm doing no talking. We're all watching a video of me teaching with my voice together, and it's just normal. And I've actually had really good success doing that. So what I would do is I would actually play this video and I would pause it. I would determine what would be a step, pause it right there at that step, make sure that everybody is on task and make sure that everybody's doing what they need to do, and go from there. And then on top of that, I would provide the video to them through Google Classroom or their Canvas to where they can refer back to it in case there was something that they missed. And it allows me it frees me up to actually be with other students. And if you're a middle school teacher, also a reason I pre-recorded the video, because it's I get to only talk once. I don't have to sit up here and say the same thing over and over again throughout the day. And it just frees me up from a lot of having to waste my breath. So it's the craziest thing. But if you haven't tried that, it works. I know some of you guys out there may be like, I'm not taking my work home with me. I'm not doing that. But if you can find time to actually pre-record a lesson via screen and what you're going to do, and then take that recording to class and seeing how your students respond to that and seeing how it frees you up, you'll be quite surprised how well this works. I don't know if I can recommend this for elementary kids or teachers because of the way that you have to kind of really be involved. But from a middle school standpoint and even high school, this may be, a godsend, especially if you're a technology teacher or whatever the case may be. I did this actually a few times when I was teaching English a couple of years ago, back in 2020. And now that I recall, it did work similarly because I got to actually break down certain things in a sentence, pause the video, go over, and it would just really keep the kids engaged. So it's a very weird phenomenon that we're actually in. But, if you want to avoid administrators coming in and being mad at you because you're talking or whatever, it's a workaround. It definitely is. What's the saying? You don't want to be the sage on the stage or the guide on the side. You want to let the kids be the ones doing the work. And if you need to actually teach them and you have to do some talking to where there's some lecture involved without setting yourself up for failure, that's a workaround. That's a solution that I can actually provide. Wow, what weird times that we're in that the teacher can get in trouble just for lecturing because you're talking too much. It's such a weird time that we're in right now. But anyway, that's what I wanted to actually talk about today briefly, that teaching on video is very, if you're just leaving it to the kids, up to the devices of the kids, it's a very passive way. Even for an adult, I still think it's still very passive. Even in the business world, when you're doing these courses, the customer or the reviewer has to have some skin in the game. Otherwise, you're just making courses, you're making these video lessons, and you're selling them, and you don't really follow up with the people who are actually consuming this to actually make sure that they're actually learning it. And sometimes the people actually just buy it and they forget about it. They just made the purchase, and I guess it makes them feel good to just have a reference point. But I'm like that. We can tell by a lot of the books that I actually have that I'm a book nerd. A lot of these books I haven't even got to read yet. A lot of them I did read, but I have them here for reference. So maybe it's just a human thing or whatnot. Maybe for now it's just a Deshaun thing. Who knows? But in any case, that's all I wanted to talk about in this video. I would recommend that you actually watch the video where I actually speak on leaving old ideals alone, because right now we're at a time to where if you're still going into the classroom with the cape on, thinking that you're going to save every child and you're having these high expectations, I think that's a train of thought that you need to leave back in the 90s. And you need to come in with very little expectations and kind of get your feet dirty, get your hands dirty, feet and hands dirty, and let your circumstances determine how high your expectations need to be. And then from there, you can gradually raise those up as you continue to learn of the kids and build those relationships.